Yo, this is episode 431 of the New Old Heads podcast, featuring all of us and guests, brother to the night. We discuss topics such as Uncle Luke and is he somebody that we should be looking for when it comes to hip hop history in the South. We then had a discussion about album reviews and if that even matters anymore. And after that discussion, we went into the topic of the Kanye West and academics interview or rant, so to speak, where we discussed from our point of view how his influence could be detrimental or lead to influence people in the wrong way, so to speak. So make sure you check out this episode. If you're not subscribed or haven't liked, do all of that good stuff. So let's get into these topics in episode 431. Peace.
You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You are now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7. The brothers are in the building, starting off with my man Jay Moore. How are you, good sir?
Doing well. You know, just trying to get to this peace, freedom, and reparations. You know the vibe.
My man Lonegevity is in the building from a different undisclosed location. How are you, sir?
What's up, man? Okay, I'm just hoping everything works the way that it's supposed to.
Awesome.
There's a lot of things that have changed, so
it's gonna work. We're gonna be all right. My man DJ Jay Diff, what's happening, man?
Salutations.
Everything good?
Things copacetic, man.
We got special guest. I always say special guests because I feel like people that come to our show, we should treat them as such. They are special. My man, brother to the night, who actually is just be around a lot, pop up a lot.
See,
because he the homie.
You can call him a special guest, man. It's okay.
He's not here all the time.
I mean,
so.
I just,
I just pop in and pop out. Sometimes you got to pop out and
show him.
I feel you. How are you, sir?
I'm swell.
Good.
My lips just hit the mic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm swell, man. It's glad to be here with you guys, man.
You know, we get excited when you pull up, man.
We're going to talk some good
foolishness.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about
some
the
ignorance,
foolishness, if you will.
Yeah, the foolishness.
Ignorance.
Yeah.
A lot of that going around.
God bless him. God bless him.
Let's talk about Uncle Luke.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Luke, 100% legend.
Mm-hmm.
He's made a
nigga get a table dance.
And he's actually made a claim that he started Southern hip hop and he should be praised for that. He wants to be noted for that.
Yo, what up? This your boy, Uncle Luke. The question of the day that I have for you all. I started hip hop in the South in 1985, right here in Miami. My question is, why ain't nobody talking about it? 40 years. This year is 40 years. You should be having celebrations all over the South. The creation of Southern hip hop, 40 years. People in Miami, they should be talking about it. They're not even talking about it. Why ain't nobody talking about it? Is it because you'll be giving me a little too much credit? Don't take my word. Google works. 1985, first record. Throw the D. 2 Live Crew. Record. 40 years. We just finished celebrating 50-year anniversary of hip hop. And y'all don't want to celebrate 40 years of the creation of Southern hip hop? You be giving me a little too much credit. Well, we gonna do something special. Y'all check out my podcast, Uncle Luke TV on YouTube.
He has a point, but I can understand why he's not really talked about because you ain't really been nowhere in a long time. Nobody really seen his face. This the first time we hearing from him. You know what I mean? Aside from that, you only hear from Luke when it's really something bad or he said something about he was the first to do something, you know what I mean? Because last time I saw him first was he was talking about the parental advisory sign.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I get his point, but at the same time, man, you can't be asking for the attention. You do something yourself. And I see what you're doing now by putting that video, but they not gonna give you the credit. And another thing, I just don't like how that he's separating himself from hip hop. You know what I mean? It was a 50th anniversary for hip hop, and for you to segregate yourself like, I started Southern hip hop. Well, we celebrated all of hip hop. So why you want to segregate yourself as just this one portion of hip hop when we celebrated the whole genre as a whole?
I'm not mad at
Absolutely.
that. Terry, jump in. What you think, bro?
No, I agree with what he said because, Luke is a pioneer in his own right. I believe he used to call himself Luke the Mayor at one point in time.
Yeah. So he ran for mayor.
Yeah, so somebody that holds the torch for your city you should be the one leading the way in order to make all of that happen, all the accolades or whatnot that you think you should get. I watched or listened to the interview with Roxanne Shante this morning on Breakfast Club, and she talked about how she was happy to not get any awards other than the Lifetime Achievement Award. And the reason why I bring this up is because he's in that same position as far as maybe we haven't heard about you in a long time, but you have contributed the whole time that you've been in the game. She's one of those artists as well. We don't really hear about Roxanne Shante like that, but we know that she contributed to the rap game and music as a whole. So they finally gave her a Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award. She's happy to accept that, saying that I didn't bow out. I continue to, you know what I'm saying, lead the way for other people to come in and do the same thing. So I bring that up because he's in the exact same position. Somebody of your stature, somebody that has pretty much held the baton, so to speak, in hip hop and your specific genre. I mean, I remember when he used to come here and do things. There was some crazy things that he did.
Oh man, that Luke's Freak Show video. Midtown Music. He man.
Yeah, it was crazy. But he used to actually pull up to the record store in my neighborhood when he was popping, and like, you know what I'm saying, hand out CDs, sign autographs. He had a big tour bus. Chicks would get off doing crazy stuff. So, I mean, he owns that. But, I mean, in the same token, he's in a position to where he should actually be creating this whole thing himself rather than expecting someone else to do it. And to your point, I don't think he should be segregating himself from hip hop as a whole. He should have been talking about this a couple years ago when they did the actual 50 and be like, I feel like I should be included in this as well because of my contribution.
What you think, Jay? Does he have a point?
I mean, he does, because, but, you know, you got to look at it like this. The South has always been in a way marginalized when it's time to do certain acknowledgments. But, you know, Luke is also, in a way, being a thorn in the side of the establishment, you know, not only to maybe what people consider to be real hip hop, but also because you got to remember when he was, you know, Luke Skywalker, you know, back in the day when it was that, and Two Live Crew, these were independent records. You know, As Nasty as Wannabe was on his record label. It wasn't part of any major distribution system. And, you know, I feel like that's why they had, you know, they were arresting people. I think that's part of why they were arresting people for buying his records, because if you listen to As Nasty as They Want to Be Now, I mean, it's really kind of tame. You know, it's more funny than anything. Like, you know, I think of course, you know, a lot of the attitudes toward women aren't particularly, you know, evolved, but, you know, neither were a lot of the people who were making the music at the time, you know. But when I listen to, you know, the For Life NWA album, that's way worse than anything that Luke was doing.
Well, that was more so Dade County, because the parents that came together, their parents are actually the ones that created the parental advisory sticker.
Yeah, it was the PMRC led by Tipper Gore, Al Gore's ex-wife or whatever. You know, so that predates Luke, but you know, there, you know, when you can go on YouTube and see where they were arresting the Two Live Crew for performing and arresting record store owners for selling the records. I think part of that was, you know, the fervor over the content, but I think part of that was like, hey, here is this black man who's making a lot of money outside of the system that is supposed to be the establishment, you know. Like I said, I do think everyone from the South is marginalized to a certain, and I think Luke is marginalized because maybe there's still to this day people consider it just booty shake or twerk music or, you know, whatever the word of the day is as far as, you know, what it is. It's not super lyrical, you know, it's not whatever someone has to say about hip hop, but you have to understand Luke took those slings and arrows. He's the one who went to court to make sure that, you know, for whatever you think about the music today, you know, people are free to listen to, buy, and sell the music without, you know, the fear of going to jail for performing records. And that honestly all goes back to Luke. So you can't really write the story about hip hop not being censored, you know, without talking about Luke Skywalker. Maybe that, you know, you don't see the artistic contribution that he's made, but when you talk about freedom of speech, you cannot talk about freedom of speech within hip hop or music without talking about Uncle Luke. And I think that does need to be acknowledged. Like I said, it should have been acknowledged during the 50 year, you know, but if people from the South are like, yo, this is another thing where they're ignoring us, sometimes people just aren't going to give you your flowers.
They
you
want
gotta,
to
you gotta, you have to give
I thought he was at
yourself
the Grammys
flowers.
though.
He might have
I mean,
been.
at the Grammys, because I remember Ghetto Boys were there. That's why Willie D and Scarface don't do the podcast anymore together.
Yeah, that's what South was not excluded from the 50-year anniversary at all.
See, because I didn't think it was a Southern thing. If we're going to call him, if we're going to omit him from that, it's more about, to your point, we talk about his content and what he chose to rap about and what they technically stood for.
Mm-hmm.
I think that may have been a bigger deterrent than just him being actually from the South. Because there's a lot of people that got from the South to get, like we said, the Ghetto Boys. The Ghetto Boys talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? But they were still represented. Boosie was still represented. Like, it's not about the South. I think it's more of the content that they chose. Yeah, like that they chose to do. And I think that's probably what hindered him or kept him from the celebration.
At the time, I think like it was they called it bass music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't,
Yep.
it was his own separate thing, man. So it's like, to me, it's like, man, you separated yourself. I don't know if he did it specifically. That was
Good
about
job.
to tear my ass.
I definitely was going to. So glad you didn't say Pacific.
You had a Kevin Garnett moment.
I have cousins that say that out loud. Come on, man.
I don't know if he did it, but it just happened. You know what I mean? When he was coming up, they separated themselves from hip hop. Like
Right.
even at that time, it wasn't hip hop. It was rap. It was like what they was doing on the East Coast and whatever this is down there. You know what I mean? And then it was more stuff to come for that. Because truth be told, I mean, that was the sound Atlanta gravitated to
That's
first.
what I was about to say.
When
Atlanta
they first
pretty
started
much
doing
took
things.
that.
Yeah.
Atlanta had evolved the Miami sound into their own.
Yeah.
Good point.
Hence, which brought about Lil Jon, the East Side Boys, Ghost Town DJs.
Yeah.
All of that was Miami sound, just on a Atlanta front, essentially. So I mean, I think he's taking something personal that he feels like he's personally left out of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But he said
even
it though.
I mean, granted that's I understand it, but think about the artists that performed at the 50th anniversary award show, and then think about the songs
does
that
he
Luke
fit in?
has.
Mm-hmm.
Where do any of his songs
Right.
fit in?
Scarred.
Nobody knows that song.
And plus,
Why
and
not?
plus
That's a Trick Daddy staple.
But listen,
Nobody knows that
think
song.
about the celebration.
I mean, we know that
What
song.
about Raise the Roof?
But think about the
that
celebration.
one might be.
Think about the celebration, right? And Lone, I'm coming to you. Think about the celebration. The celebration had a flow where everybody had a minute and some change or whatever to represent a record. So if you're going through that and then it pops up and it's like, pop that booty, booty. It's going to be like, okay.
I'm pretty sure there would be one or two white ladies on the front row.
More than that.
But I feel
Go ahead. Come in, Lone. I'm sorry.
just saying, I feel like when you break it down, you can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? You can make it work.
I'm not saying Luke getting the legend and all that because we get it. We know the influence, all that. I'm talking about if I'm directing and producing the show.
Yeah, I get it.
There will be some sort of, I'm just a little shaky.
Doodle Brown.
No, I think
Doodle Brown
You
might
can't
work.
go. You
Yeah,
can't
that
go
would
from.
work.
You started off that segment, Cap D coming. Cap D coming. Cap D coming.
you could do a whole thing to where you. Okay, here's another point of this, right?
Okay.
Luke said recently that he potentially influenced a lot of the women popular rap women genre right now.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
You could homage that up the whole way.
Yeah.
You could start with Luke and then go all the way, the Two Life Crew and all the way up to what you see now, or the other way around. You can start with what's hot now and go backwards. You can make that
Evolution
work.
of whole shit.
Yeah, he definitely started whole culture.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, if you're not speaking up, if you're not talking about it,
Right.
especially, we don't hear his name come up that often anymore.
That's what I'm saying.
So like, that's the only time that I've heard like Luke talk about anything in the last few years was the women rap thing and this. And I think he's valid on both points. Honestly, I think he's valid.
he
And he didn't really seem like he was like
Disgruntled?
super. No, he didn't seem disgruntled. He just kind of like, hey man, here I am.
He live in Miami.
it seemed.
He's
The only
sunny
reason
and
I
warm.
say something because it seemed fake.
No, I don't
Part
think
of it.
I think
Yeah,
he
it's
was,
like, oh my God, you should have done something like.
he's trolling.
He leaned
He's
into
trolling.
it quite a
Yeah.
bit.
But deep down though, I believe he believes that.
That's
that
his
he, that he-
persona, though.
That he feels that. 100%.
I understand that, but if you feel that way, say it in the way that I feel like this, and stand on that the joke and stuff.
Or
like
stand on it 2 years ago when they had the event.
Or stand on it when Dr. Dre and Snoop was calling you out.
Yeah, I thought about that when I was
That's a
watching
good
that video of him. I was like, he.
That's a good point.
They're not gonna play Cowards in Compton at the Grammys.
There were certain things said in that song, Dre Day, about Luke. Gap teeth in your mouth.
Hey.
Well, there was a lot of. That was an era of a lot of questionable lines.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know what? I thought about one today.
Questionable line?
DMX has a problem.
Come on, man.
Let's not stray too far.
I'm
Y'all
just saying it. Y'all gonna make me. He said, "If I gotta bring it to you, cowards, then it's gonna be quick." And your man's that been to jail before.
suck my dick.
Thank you.
Hey, what
I mean,
did you
like,
mean by
there's
that?
so much in hip hop to where you're like,
oh my God,
how
man.
did you make this jail culture so
And they played
palatable?
it everywhere. They played it everywhere in America.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
Y'all
Still do.
remind me of a strip club because every time I come in here,
And get my sucked.
Thanks, Long.
That's what he said.
I mean, y'all remember
who
the
are you
song?
talking to?
Hey.
I'm just
Yeah.
Hey, man.
The thing
Well, didn't he
is,
say that right after? No, who
Yeah.
the think you talking to? It's like right after that.
Yo,
but-
Lone and this DMX knowledge is messing me up right now, bro.
no, but with
I've heard some hip hop songs.
yeah,
You
a
have
couple.
lots of them.
But the thing is, I don't know. I'm just one of those people that's more, I'm a lot more fascinated, and I can say the same thing for Master P. Like, I'm a lot more fascinated by their business acumen and like the things they did behind the scenes than their actual artistic output. Like, I saw a statistic today. There was one time when they brought all the records he released, including on himself. If it was done on Def Jam, there would have dates be in Forbes magazine. I know Master P was I think he was in Forbes magazine, but they don't talk about that legendary run, I think, because it is from the South, and so when, like I said, there is, the South got something to say. Andre said it, at the Source Awards.
Changed a lot.
And, maybe, the way the South moves, this could be something that sparks them to go ahead and do their own thing.
I think it's only a handful of people that don't talk about that. Us being from the Midwest, you gonna hear P's name
Yeah, it
when you talk
literally
about
never
legendary
left.
runs.
Here's my thing.
But even the South, like
The
to
South
Jay's
in
point,
general.
like we're gonna hear the South here,
Yeah. Only
Like,
person, but only person that has a leg to stand on about being forgotten, I can say is probably Luke, or what dude named from Slip and Slide, because Trick Daddy had a nice little run over there too.
So why? So
do we just not acknowledge Miami?
Miami, yeah.
that's what I was
Like,
about
we
to ask,
acknowledge
because
Atlanta or Houston?
there has to be something there.
It's like there's the South and then there's Miami.
Exactly. There has to be something there because we all have been in multiple conversations amongst ourselves about hip hop, whether it's on a panel, whether it's on a phone call, just shooting the breeze, whatever. Luke doesn't come up too often.
He doesn't. It's a different kind of South though.
So let's pass
That's
the
fair.
buck then. Let's
fair.
pass the buck, because in Miami, who do we have? We have Khaled.
He don't count.
Why don't he?
For
he
him
counts.
to be the quote unquote mayor of
Yeah.
Miami,
Why don't he
he need
count?
to be putting that on.
That's what I'm saying.
He counts. You're right.
He definitely counts, because if he drops an album today, he can get most of the top artists on that joint. So
Yeah.
he's a staple.
Because he
when it
doesn't
comes
make mysterious music. That's-
Exactly. I see. He makes radio music. So you got to holler at Khaled. You got to holler at
Pitbull.
Pitbull. Pitbull is a worldwide star.
And Pitbull was put on by Luke.
Exactly.
Facts.
So you got to
Facts.
holler at them two people. You got to holler at Rick Ross. We know Rick Ross don't show nobody love. He only showed the real Rick Ross love. So he ain't show no love back home. He live in Atlanta now. So these are three culprits you need to be hollering at, Luke. I don't think it falls on the backs of everybody else, because Khaled is in a position to where he's somebody that can help program things. If he's not including you in those situations, then that's a problem with Miami. That's not a problem with hip hop altogether.
Yeah.
Because Miami is not excluded from the talks of hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying take care of your own, especially if you're in that position
Listen,
to be
take
able
care
to
of
do
your
so.
own, man, because this ain't nobody's fault but the people that looked up to you? Because so I don't know if you did something in the past that makes them not want to pull you to the forefront, or what, or they actually might be in people's ears saying don't use Luke.
You know, it's crazy.
You know what I'm saying?
It's crazy because you'll see the same people that Terry just talked about praising Luke. Oh man, Luke is a legend. He's, he raised us. He's Miami. He through and through. But when it comes to the opportunities, to his point, we don't see those. Think about the projects that, Cal, we'll use Cal as an example, that he's released. How many Luke features we've seen on those?
None.
Is there room for that? Like, what does that look like?
That's why question right there. Like, is there room for that? Because the culture of hip hop, with the exception of maybe the last 10 years, is out with the old, in with the new. You know what I mean? So it's somebody new coming out of Miami. You know what I mean? And it's more. They more apt to gravitate toward the new thing as opposed to, hell, Khaled don't even mess with Ace Hood no more.
No, he don't.
You know what I mean?
I like Ace Hood.
Yeah, Ace Hood. I mean, Meek Mill really got a lot. He owe a lot to Ace Hood, man, because Meek Mill sound like Ace Hood to me.
Yeah. So I think what we're all saying is there may be something to this.
Something going on.
Yeah, there's something underlying that where he's not being involved in certain things. Not because he's not a legend. Maybe there's just something that we're missing that we're not privy to.
Let's go back to our conversation last week real quick, right? Mm-hmm. Where we were talking about new artists and the media's responsibility, right? And one thing that, shouts to Justin, one thing that Justin Hunt mentioned was, in 2025, it's nobody's responsibility. Like, you have to be your own content. You have to be your own news.
True.
If the only thing that we see from you is generally speaking, two videos, I'm sure maybe he does other stuff. I don't know.
He's got more stuff.
But maybe he's got to advocate for himself a little bit more. But there's obviously some respect that should be given. To
because
Luke,
when we just talked about that, like me just thinking about the names that you all mentioned, Miami has its own hip hop power structure. Mm-hmm. Now, it may not be as robust as the Atlanta power structure as far as promoting its own artists, but there is something there, but Luke, like I said, I just now finding out that he has his own podcast. I bet he has some incredible stories. So now I'm going to check it out. I mean, because the last time I even saw Luke, it was a real strange, and I don't want to say strange interaction, but no, actually Luke was very visible during the election as far as advocating for Kamala. And then I remember seeing him on sitting down talking to Stephen A. Smith, on one of his many ventures, so Luke has been out here. He's visible when he wants to be. So maybe now he sees himself. He wants to be visible. This might be the spark that gets things going for
in the music space.
Yeah. In the music space. But because I've seen him in just the political and the content space. Yeah. It's been a while since I've heard about a Luke concert or Luke girls doing this, that, and the third. So now maybe it's time for that.
No.
You don't see that Luke girl show no more. Huh? You ain't gonna never see the Luke girl show.
Yeah. I will.
It's a wrap.
Luke's peep show. You think the time for that is over?
Yeah.
It's a wrap. But I mean, you also have the city girls as well.
True.
Yeah, that's. I mean, they making noise.
Kodak.
All I know is he's a whole legend. His impact and influence is still being felt now. Just however you want to find it in pockets, you can find it. But he is. I think he has a right to say what he said, and I felt him on that. But fam,
hey, stand on it.
Stand on it. You got to stand. That's it. Just stand on it because you're a legend enough to stand on what you're saying.
And I think there's plenty of room if Luke wants to help put together a Southern hip hop 40th anniversary. There's plenty of room for celebrating all that.
For sure,
that'd be cool.
I mean,
how many people would do that just off the strength of him? Like, there's a lot of people that will pull up. That's how big of a legend he is. People will pull up if he chose to do such, I think. Oh, you don't think so?
Well, I'm not even speaking on it from it's a Luke thing. I'm just saying like a celebrating Southern hip hop. That's all I'm talking about.
I got you, man. I got you.
I'm not 100% certain, but part of me thinks he's been on one of those legend tours, Legends of Southern Hip Hop tours or whatever. I mean,
one of them boats.
Yeah, I've seen the ones that go to like
the fairgrounds.
The cruise.
Yeah, the fairgrounds. You know what I mean? Where Pastor Troy and
maybe
Bun B.
I feel like the South celebrates itself all the time in a certain way.
Come on now.
Like they know. Despite all their mainstream success, that sometimes they're just out on their own. So,
true.
I mean,
So
and that's one of the things that makes the South so dope.
Exactly.
Because they're always celebrating each other.
That's true.
Like you just brought up Bun B. Bun B just had a fire show in Texas for the rodeo.
Yeah.
He had a stadium show for, I think it was him, Jagged Edge.
Jagged Edge, okay.
Yeah. Jagged Edge was here this past week, too. They did a fire show. What's the dude, the one that said his song wasn't hip-hop? They had the song with
Tommy Richmond?
Tommy Richmond. He was there.
What?
Yeah, he was there.
He opened for Jagged Edge?
He opened, no, for
I was about to
Bun
say.
B.
Oh, okay.
So he had a
That's weird.
celebration.
Yeah.
Texas holds their artists down.
Tommy Richmond from Texas?
I don't know if he's from Texas, but
Okay.
I'm just saying,
Right.
in general, they hold their artists down. So this is a Miami situation. You need to holler at your people in Miami and have them show you the love that you feel like you deserve.
Oh, that's all there is to it.
So shout out to Luke, man. Luke, you still a legend. And
Go and check out your podcast.
and get your flowers, brother, because I ain't gonna cap, dude. You damn sure deserve them. Lone, shout out to Lone saying,
Let's go.
shout out to Lone saying on them boats.
You know, they do
but
the
I
hip
felt
hop
you, though.
cruises.
I know that, hey.
He very possibly could be. You know, Miami's next to
Bells is
water.
coming up.
Now, that
Shout out to Lone on
might
them
be
boats.
Nah, it
a
is.
thing Luke could do. The Luke tour?
Yeah.
The Luke cruise?
With
Yeah, I
a
mean,
whole
'cause,
bunch
yeah.
of thought broth.
Well, you know, certain things in international waters are permitted that may not be permitted on land.
That's what I'm saying. The Luke cruise. Nah,
Yeah,
all
let's
Yeah.
be
Amen.
let's- yeah. Hey, thank
God
you.
is good.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
The
let's
Lord's my shepherd.
Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member. All details on newoldheads.com.
Let's go to this next topic, man. So I have a question, and then I'm going to read this lead in, but it basically boils down to who cares about albums anyway, right? And when I say that, I'm speaking from a review standpoint. So shout out to the homie Justin Hunt, who was just with us last week. He recently discussed the lack of importance on album reviews in 2025. Now, this conversation included Torre and Anthony Fantano. I hope I said his name right.
And Ketchum, William Ketchum.
William Ketchum, yep. And they dove into why this concept is or is not necessary in today's music climate. So I believe we have a clip. We can watch that and kind of dive in and discuss afterwards.
But I mean, you know, like, but there are definitely some artists who literally just look at the album as like a collection of songs, right? And I think that, but I do think that there are specific artists who are going to use an album as a statement and as sort of like a representation of where they're at. Although
it depends on what they set their audience up for. I think Drake has been in that mode for a decade now. I think he's more or less been in that mode when it comes to approaching albums since More Life. Because I mean, if we remember, that was a playlist.
Yep. Yeah.
that wasn't an album. And I think he's mostly been kind of like thinking of his albums format wise in that same way since then, because he came out with that fucking thing and it was well received. His fans liked it. You know, because I don't think Drake fans are sort of like expecting the kind of storytelling and world building that maybe some fans of other artists who tend to indulge in that sort of thing do.
These guys had a great conversation about, you know, just the types of albums, the collection of songs versus what we would say an album that's more conceptual, if you will. And if that's even looked at or reviews even looked at, do people even care about that in the space now? So I had a couple questions that I put in here, but I want you guys to react first to what you saw, because I feel like sometimes there are artists who do the collection of songs projects versus the ones that do the more creative projects. I don't feel like they're held in the same regard as to how we look at them, if that makes sense, because we know some people are just going to throw records together.
I think it depends.
Okay, go ahead, Lon. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it depends on, like, from a consumer standpoint, we are, and I feel like we've talked about this a lot, but from a consumer standpoint, we like short little hits, man. We like, give me a song, let me scroll to the next thing. Give me a song, let me scroll to the next thing. Let me see what's going on my social feed, right? A lot of us here enjoy albums, you know what I mean? But in general, the way that most people consume media nowadays is just short. And so I think that he mentioned, Fantano mentioned like Drake's approach, like it was like a playlist, if you will. And that works right now because you can just give people songs. So from their perspective, where they're talking about like an album review and doesn't even matter anymore, to some of us it does,
right?
In general, but generally speaking, albums don't have as much of an impact on the general culture of onlineness and how we consume everything as it used to, because we don't have the time to sit with stuff in the same type of way, or we don't feel like we do because we don't have any attention. So
I think, well, first and foremost, I think it's funny how you can't like I might this word up, but the juxtaposition that you put people in where you can't say Drake and Kendrick, because it looked like he wanted to say like Drake. Right. Drake, the way Drake puts his albums out as opposed to Kendrick,
he
couldn't because nobody really wants to say it just because of the beef. You know what I mean? So I think that's
plus
funny.
Fantano's been getting a lot of shit recently because
they saying that's all he does is talk about the beef. That's how he got popping.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. All right, I get it, but I think it's been this way since iTunes led you to buy like each song as opposed to buying full albums. You know what I mean? Once you didn't have to digest the whole project at one time like we had, it's been this way. You know what I mean? So this is nothing new. I don't think this is a new concept. It's just that's the way the game is now.
So let me ask this, and I'll throw this out before I come to Terry. We still got Jay too, but from the standpoint of the actual review, right? Mm-hmm. At this point, is it even necessary based off what you said and what Lone said about how attention span, everything's short, it's fast, it's quick, it's on to the next one. Is it even necessary?
Yes, it's just a different format. And Justin does it, you guys do it. It's just the reaction video now. As opposed to...
But it's not an album. Well, I mean, we did a couple.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because it's for certain artists, they get the whole album. You know what I mean? But the reaction video is now the new album review.
Yeah, I think in a way, I think there's always space for
a review,
for reviews and stuff like this. That's still going to exist. I just don't think it's popular. It's not the mainstream anymore. It's not how most people consume their media in general.
So would it be fair to say that it's still, it's still something that can be used as a tool, but it's not as popular, or the impact is not as what it used to be?
I mean,
is that fair to say?
Think about back when Terry and I were blogging, right?
Right.
We would listen to an album and we would share an album, and then you would come and you would check out the album and listen to it, or it would be a single or whatever.
Yeah.
Where does that exist anymore? To where, like, I don't know, man. It just
YouTube.
Exactly. That's my point, though. Like.
There's no print media anymore.
That's what I was going to say.
That's what I was getting to.
Go ahead, Terry.
We've evolved from things being printed, and I don't have to check and see if I should purchase this item because I'm paying for a streaming service now. So if I have the streaming service, I can just listen to it real quick and decide if I like it or not. Versus picking up the source. Okay, this album got 3.5. I don't know if I think they rated that right. I'm gonna listen for myself. This album got 2. Okay, I might leave that one alone. It got 2. This one got 5. I gotta listen to that. You know what I'm saying? Whereas now, if I got a streaming service, I can listen and consume everything that I want to consume and form my own opinion. Now, in the same token, people listen to music by influence.
Yeah.
Just like as DJs, we can drop a song that we feel like is hard. The consensus doesn't pick it up until somebody else tells them it's hard. And we've been playing it for months, though. So it's like you have certain people that look for somebody to give them the push to go ahead and say it's okay. You got other individuals that are like, I feel like I'm a tastemaker and I know what's right anyway, so I'm going to listen to what he's playing. I mean, you get certain people that'll walk up to you at the end of the night and point out an obscure song that you played.
Yeah.
Because they want to let you know that I'm on that radar. I know what you on. You know what I'm saying? So nowadays, it kind of it's evolved to the point where
influencers.
Yeah, there you go. It's evolved to a point where you have an artist like Drake that can make an album where it's just songs, and that appeals the masses.
Yeah.
verse. That's the whole difference between the Kendrick and Drake situation, because Kendrick will put together an album. Even GNX is an album. You know what I'm saying? It's not a playlist.
Yeah.
His album, you have to listen to albums differently than you listen to an album that just has singles on it. Now, granted, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's how he pieces his albums together. You know what I mean? Because he has those little segments where he has like the lady playing the guitar on GNX. In all of his albums, he gives you something to make the transition from each track seamless.
Right.
As opposed to this song's over, go to the next song.
And the issue with that is people's attention span. They don't want to listen to a whole thing. They feel like they don't want to learn anything.
That's not true, man.
And not even necessarily learn anything. They don't want to have to think that maybe this song down here tied into this song and this is a story and now I'm paying attention too much.
It's only how you put the album together, because we didn't say that when we heard GNX. You know what I mean? We didn't say that when Cole put out his projects. You know what I mean? But he did the same thing.
I do agree with Terry, and I believe I'm going to make sure I quote him right. I feel like the consensus does not want to do what he said. Across the board.
I think
it's still a flow, and I'm just using Kendrick as an example because he brought up Drake in the playlist album. That's the only reason I'm using Kendrick.
But again, it's like he said, it's how you condition your listeners to digest your projects.
And it's also knowing the structure of putting an album together.
Exactly.
Well.
You know what I mean? And the only reason I feel that way about Drake projects is because Drake has people that give him these records. So he's not creating some of these records, you know what I mean?
Because he's aiming for something different.
Yeah, he's just aiming for a hit, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm gonna put all of these songs on here, and the people are gonna tell me which ones they like, as opposed of this is where I'm at in my life right now, and I want to give you my piece of art right now. So that's how he conditioned his listeners to grab or to listen to digest his projects. You know what I mean?
So how do we explain somebody like a Playboy Cardi who just dropped an album?
Playboy Cardi, I didn't listen to it just because it's not for me. I'm not gonna be honest with you.
Love that honesty.
My son listened to it, and my son told me I get my tastemakers. Mm-hmm. I know that's his type of music that he listens to. So I called my son and I asked him what he thought about the project. My son told me he was disappointed in it. So after he told me that, I trusted his opinion and I didn't have to go listen to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, tell me which records it is that you like. So I think this is the Elliott Wilson argument all over again. You know what I mean? Because how he was upset with the bloggers and all this, that, and the third, because he wasn't getting the interviews that he expected. You know what I mean? But people not really into journalists no more. They into personalities. That's why, like, you go listen to Joe Budden talk about a project, and whether he says it's good or not determines on how many people really listen to it anymore. Like, Joe Budden is the new academics. These are the new Elliott Wilsons.
Yeah. It's literally the influencer. The power of an influencer has surpassed the journalist. Mm-hmm. That's the era that we're in now.
It's almost like the journalist is like the bourgeois, like this
teacup.
Y'all out here reading and writing. Mm-hmm. You know, like, just tell us if we should like it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the sports writer that is stuck in the 60s and the 70s on his typewriter. Mm-hmm. He's not he or she's not evolving. It's the same thing. It's not to say that the journalists are not good at what they do. They've been great writers.
Yeah, people just want something different.
Time is evolving. People want things that are different.
For this conversation, when based upon the original conversation with Fantano and Justin and Torre and them, mm-hmm. they were talking about album reviews and is the album review relevant anymore? Right. But one of the biggest album reviewers, period, across the board is Fantano, and he doesn't do journalism in that type of manner. He is somebody who specifically does video album reviews, and they're very in-depth, right? So he's in that space, but I think it's more so about the way that the album review is approached, as opposed like covering an entire body of work and potentially giving it a rating and things of that matter, as opposed to let us, like what we do, we sit and we listen to songs and we tell you if we like it or not. It's not an in-depth analysis of, well, I mean, sometimes a little bit, but it's more of a reaction as opposed to sitting with a piece of work. And I think that's kind of the conversation. The argument is like, is that important anymore?
And that goes
How does the artist feel about that though at the end of the day? Because I mean, we can talk about Kendrick and Drake, but there's other artists that put out albums as well. They don't necessarily tell a story, but the way the album flows is a feeling, it's a vibe, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and I think the kind of vibe situation has taken over people paying attention to a whole album just being, you know what I'm saying, the thing that they're looking for.
Jump in there, Jay.
Well, you know, we're all old enough to remember when we would get that Source magazine, and before we went to anything, we'd go to the back and see what someone's album was rated.
Yep.
You know, and the thing is, an album rating at that time was a difference between, like, your album may not come out if you get 3 mics. You know, they might have to push back and make some changes. You know, there are people willing to fight over, you know, what a journalist would say and how your particular piece of art is rated.
Yeah.
You know,
that's true.
You know, people don't care. I mean, not that they don't care what someone says about their record, but, you know, if your intention is just to have a song that goes off in the club, and, you know, it depends on people's approach to art. You know, like, I just remember, you know, when Ice Spice, remember her?
I see what you did there.
She put out her last album, and when I listened to it, I wasn't listening to it thinking, okay, I'm going to get this magnum opus that tells this incredible story. This is going to be a collection of songs, and, you know, and like I said, I still listen for what may work in the club, just to freshen up what gets played. And I heard an album full of full-on swings and misses. And now when I listen to you know, the Mr. Morale, I'm not checking really, or at least, you know, that was not an album to where he's thinking, okay, this is going to go on the radio. This is for the strip club. This is for, you know, when people put on a linen. Like, that was a personal album where he was trying to tell a story, you know, and so it's a different approach to art. And whether or not you review it as such, or you just review every album as you would, you know, if you think everybody's intention is the same, you know, I think that's where things get lost in translation, because there are things that are reviewed poorly, but if they got 3 bangers out of 15 songs,
that's all that matters.
That's really, I mean, it's messed up that that's all that matters. You know, and I think about, you know, and I hate to keep bringing up Drake and Kendrick, but, you know, like, when I listen to a Drake album, I could put it on random. You know, I mean, back when people had CD players and there was CDs on random.
You still do shuffle.
Shuffle.
You can do shuffle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Shuffle.
You know, I got to update the lingo. But, you know, and I'm like, okay, it really doesn't matter in which order these songs are played.
Yeah.
You know, but
it still works.
I can't play, you know, To Pimp a Butterfly is not an album that you want to listen to out of order if you're going to listen to the entire body of work. But, you know, I just think that when we talk about album reviews, do they matter as much as they used to? No, because it really is a popularity contest, you know, and if it's about it, all you need is one. And a lot of these people aren't even putting out full bodies of work, because if you can just put out a 2 or 3 pack here or there, and one of those can set it off for the summer, why am I going to, you know, perfect example. Cardi B has not put out an album in 7-8 years now. She put out her debut, and she's just been tossing out singles. Her two of her biggest records weren't even on an album.
Well, her win is her personality works.
Yeah, and she's found a way. She was still at the Grammys this year without putting out a full body of work in almost a decade. You know, she's found a way to maintain, I guess, what you would call relevance or popularity in the marketplace with one album and some mixtapes and a couple singles here and there. But that's why I think, you know, like I said, people used to want to fight the journalists over a bad review. Now I don't think it's so much, because, like, I don't care. I got the song of the summer. I don't care if you hate the other 9 songs on the album.
Jump in, B.
I think that the reason the album review is not what it was is the journalist's fault.
Oh.
Because once the public realized that, look, some of these reviews could be bought, journalistic integrity actually kind of went shy. Once you saw Benzino got 5 mics,
It was 4.5, but still.
I mean, I don't know what that album sounds like.
No,
nor do I.
You know what I mean? And then there's been several other artists where, you know, you hear the people talking about the project and you go listen to it and you like, yeah, I don't, maybe I didn't hear what you heard. So maybe you this review was purchased.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So people's journalistic, and that goes for bloggers.
Yeah, it goes for influencers.
Yeah, all of us.
It's still there now.
And there's still a bias there. You look, anybody, you can Google it. If you read the Source's review of Doggy Style, it is the most hating ass, I think 4.5 mic review you will ever hear from. You know, it's like, this album is great, but it's too much like it's like, you are praising this record, but it's still a level of hate. And it was like, because the West Coast was just whooping so much ass at that point.
Man, oh man.
It was an East Coast publication.
Yeah. And so it was like, we can't give this 5 mics. Not his first album, 5 mics. No, a kid from the West Coast? Hell no.
So back to your point that you just made recently, though, Jay, about what we are all talking about in the sense of why the album review isn't relevant as much anymore. I think it's also, because people aren't checking for it. It's because back then that's how you checked for music.
Exactly.
That's not how you check for music now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a major piece of it. I think album reviews have just become niche at this point. So, I mean, if the landscape was kind of the same, even if people were still giving out ratings and we didn't agree with them, if that was the only way, we would still be checking them.
Man,
but the thing, because that was the way that we had to check them, because this stuff still exists right now.
I'm about to say, you don't know how
playlisting.
Y'all don't know how big like the scene is for, like, yeah, of course y'all do, like reaction videos.
Yeah.
That's the new album review, man. Like, because there'll be a song that come out. And I go pull up the name of the song on YouTube, and I'm seeing reaction videos 30 minutes after the song dropped.
True.
You know what I mean? So, and then like sometimes I catch like the way the algorithm goes, it gives me the actual reaction video before I actually get to the song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
they're on it.
I think that is like the new album review, man, because there are certain songs that I've heard through album reviews because I couldn't find the link quick enough or something. So I actually had to go listen to somebody's opinion on the record before I actually heard the record.
Yeah. I can give that some P's. The thing about it is, too, people aren't solely focused on artists and what they do as an artist, so to speak. It's more so what works here and what works there. And is this going to make my Friday and Saturday lit, so to speak, by listening to whatever came out? People don't consume albums the same way, and that's the whole reason why
that switched to Friday.
Yeah, it just doesn't work the same way. You know what I'm saying? So an album review, to your point, has switched over to a video react, and that video react leads to me seeing this video, and then maybe, okay, that song was cool, I'm gonna go down and check out some other stuff. People that consume things that way. I still personally, having a streaming service, if there's an album or an artist that came out, I'm going to hit play on it regardless. I don't have to see anything, and I'm going to form my own opinion based off of that.
Terry, but you are literally a tastemaker.
I was going to lead to that too. 'Cause like, I mean, even some albums come out, me and you might text back and forth. Hey, did you check that out? What'd you think? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. I listen to things differently because I feel like I have to. And I also enjoy music, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? But I think as a consumer, they're not focused on if this artist is dropping 12 dope songs. If they give me 2 or 3 that I can add to my weekend playlist, then I'm cool.
Unless you're a super fan of that artist.
Exactly.
You know?
Because I don't think the artist is as special as it was when we were growing up. So now You have access to everything. Instagram. We see photos.
I was going to go there.
We see all that. So these were superstars. I should look at these guys and be like, man, Raekwon and Ghostface, they fresh. They got the polo sport joint. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Now it's like I can see everything on Instagram. They'll drop albums soon, and I'm going to listen to it. Y'all follow me?
Yeah, there's that.
For sure.
And then there's also everybody think they can do it now.
Because of access.
Yeah, that's the second part.
I think to piggyback off of that, I think it also it turns into this bigger conversation about how we as society don't really value art.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, you said that. I remember that was a hell of an episode y'all did a while back where y'all was talking about just the way the value of art has gone down to this point, man. It's really
this goes into, because Lone is consistently, we've talked about this, but this conversation that they're having goes right into what we've talked about with that. It literally goes right into it. So I don't know, man. I don't foresee this being something that changes soon, because if anything, it's going to go the other way faster.
Bro, we were literally messing around with AI art before we came on the show.
Yes.
True.
Which
I got some good stuff off of it.
Yeah, but at the same time, like this is not art. We talked about Timbaland saying that real music has no soul last week. You know, this is where we're at. It's gonna take the consistent look. Art is always going to exist.
Sure.
We're going to have these ebbs and flows, if you will, but it's going to take, in my opinion, a bunch of people to kind of put their foot down and say, no, this is still music over here. This is still art that I like over here. We have to be able to distinguish the difference between the two. AI is great as a tool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to mess around with. Until you get into the ethics of, everybody doing it and all that stuff. But anyways.
I think you'll be able to differentiate the two, though.
Oh, how
eventually.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. It's like, I don't think we can now. I think in the future it's going to be crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Going the other direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
How the mighty have
baby.
fallen, man. That's how I feel. Like after hearing that discussion from Timbaland, that comment from Timbaland, man, like, bro.
Your Timberland.
Yeah, for you to give what you've given to the game. You know what I mean? Because at that time it was so original. You know what I mean? And of all people, you are the person to say something about a computer creating something, you know what I mean?
That check.
Yeah, it's sad.
Well, the thing is, people have been
he a hoe.
People have been using AI before it was computerized. Drugs is an AI event essentially as well, because it stimulates a different part of your brain to create something that you wouldn't have thought of if you hadn't have taken that substance.
Yeah.
So essentially, drugs is an AI. It's just moved to
through
the
a
web.
human.
Hey, you know what?
Man,
he
you
actually owns something right there.
I see where you're going.
It took me
I'm
a minute.
halfway
but
with you.
Yeah, I was like,
Hey,
man, he's
I'm
right.
serious.
He's low key.
I'm serious. Think
That
about
low-key makes
Think
sense.
about
We be
artists
letting
whose
you
whole
know.
That's what I was listen. Think
gonna
about
call it
artists
AI,
whose whole
but-
sound is drug related. The shit that Parliament Funkadelic was coming up with was drug related.
Yeah, it was.
The
Pet Sounds
Doors
by the
shit
Beach
was
Boys.
drug related.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? Who else? Pink Floyd shit was drug related.
Come on.
Yeah.
These are sounds that they wouldn't have been able to come up with without that substance.
Y'all saw the
That's
Slide
AI.
documentary. Y'all saw the Slide documentary. They was
That's AI.
Drugs was definitely going
They was on that.
That's
Yeah.
AI. That's just AI before it was computerized.
man, Terry, you might get the gold star for the day, brother. That's one of them ones right there.
Listen, man, this is just real shit. that's going on.
Listen, brother. That's where I thought
Yeah.
you was. I thought you was on your Umar.
Oh yeah, yeah.
His hand, he was looking for his hands to start.
It's the truth though, man.
Nah, man, it's like Lone said. Like Lone
Umar.
said.
That white girl has been influencing music for a lot longer than y'all would ready to think.
Listen,
Or the brown one,
come on,
the
man.
brown boy.
But no, I think to wrap this up, I think Lone is correct in terms of we're going the opposite direction. It's going to get worse before it circles back around, and I guess we'll just have to watch and see how it goes.
We're moving to a space where I just don't think we're going to have many albums to review. You know, the album might just wind up being something that is a luxury for those higher tier artists. Everyone else is just working off singles.
Yeah.
Well, the only pushback I'll say, and then we can move on, is that you can make an album and then push your album as singles. That's what I think is that's game right 7 there. Level. And that's forehead,
not really
brain, whatever.
That's game right there.
Back in the day, you know, when you think about what Motown did, by the time the Temptations had an album, it was just a collection of their 45s on one piece of vinyl.
Yeah, they were singles.
Yeah,
that's all you got to do.
Yeah,
make an album and push every single thing as a single. Because that works now in today's climate. That's the one thing that you can do.
Facts. Because the people will pick the single if need be.
The thing is the single is just what it is. So you can make a single out of anything. You can make a single. Every single B-side record that we liked back in the day, those are singles now. You just have to target and market it in a specific way.
Yeah, it's all about everything.
At the end of the day, a good album with a whole bunch of great singles doesn't have to tell a story. That's still a good album. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Thriller is one of those joints.
It's
obviously the greatest album of all time, being Thriller as far as sales wise is considered. It's just an album full of singles.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's to Terry's point. When you listen to that record, it's not about a theme. It's not about a concept. You just run it. And the album is fire. Think about Thriller. You just run it. That's you don't have to go too deep into that. All the records take care of themselves when you listen to Thriller.
That's weird though. Saying
what's weird?
It's not the album's not thing, because it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
But the lead single sold the track. That sold the album, because that's Billie what his Jean. Name. That was Billie Jean. No.
Billie Jean was the first single off that.
Thriller. I'm just saying
the first single was "The Girl Is Mine."
I believe it.
Was it? Never mind.
The Doggone Girl Is Mine.
The Doggone, because it had Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
They were like, let's get this out of the way. That's not me. That's Michael. He was like, let's get it out of the way.
I'm just saying Thriller being the record that titled the album. You know what I mean? So I would think that's what sold the album.
Yeah. It's not there yet, but I'm telling you, this is foreshadowing. Make albums, just drop everything as a single. That is the meta. That's what everybody needs to do. Because what you can do there is you can target everybody that just wants the short pieces, right? But the people that also want the connective piece, they can get it if they want it.
Yeah. So you cover everybody by releasing it that way.
I think Chris Brown is mastering that right now.
How do you do that, though?
How do you
release the singles at first?
No.
And then you release the album?
You drop the album
to Lowe's
first.
point, you drop the project and then you
create a video for each single.
You do it in reverse as what we have been doing for the last since the inception, which was lead up to something and then you give them something. Maybe drop a single before or do some sort of announcement before so people know. But then you give the album out and then you do your promotional run for 9 months after that, sprinkling the songs in, because you're going to get a different person every time and they're going to want to check more of your stuff. And if you drop a whole bunch of singles beforehand and you don't have your stuff yet, people are going to get bored of you.
And that gives
you're playing into the psychology of okay, they already have something fully here. Cool, you got them. Then the algorithm just works to grab whoever every single time.
Man,
there's no such thing as a follower. There's no such thing as a subscriber anymore. So you can't play into that whole mode or that idea that you're going to grab people and then they're going to see your stuff, unless you already have so much money that you can spend and target those people.
And the success is twofold, because the project lives. It has legs, but it also has people, to Lone's point, goes back to your back catalog. You can get two things out of that by releasing it that way.
Man, you know how tough that is for newer artists.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
For sure, for sure.
So that essentially what you're saying, they're going to be a lot of new artists.
So they have to play into it until they can get to that position.
But how? Okay, so
because that's why I brought up Chris Brown.
Okay,
Chris Brown can drop an album every single year and have songs off that last album that had 20 joints on it charting right now. That song's just now charting.
Residuals.
And he has a whole new album out.
Yeah.
And he does it on every single one. So when he started doing it, dropping a 30 album or 30 track album, it was to feed the algorithm. It's like he was figuring something out. It wasn't to dropping a whole complete album for you to fuck with as an album. It's more so, here's a bunch of songs. I'm going to go on tour this summer. I'm going to have some songs off of here, some songs off the stuff y'all really rock with, and then I'm going to do it again. while he's doing that, the other songs from the other albums are coming into play. You know what I'm saying? Like the what's the Robitussin joint that he had?
Under the Influence.
That's off Under the Influence.
Robitussin.
Well, he says that in it.
Oh,
but
okay.
anyway.
Okay. All right. I got you.
That song is popular now. You know what I'm saying? That song is popular now. It's been popular for like 2 years. He dropped it like 4 years ago, though.
How long was Sensational out before it hit? You
listen,
know what I'm
man.
saying?
Dope record.
Sensational was on 2 albums ago.
Yeah,
I feel
record.
like
That's a dope record.
But what he's doing, like I think we even talked about the number of songs he had on his joints is working in his favor because he's paying attention to the songs that he's actually putting on these albums. They're not just throwaway songs. They're songs that at some point in time is going to hit the algorithm or going to hit somebody's ear and they gonna rock with it.
But also, this is Chris Brown. You know, I don't suggest. You know, you're talking about. At this point, Chris Brown has been out here rocking for almost 20 years, and he
has been rocking for 20.
And one of the things where it may not work for everybody, he can put out 30 songs. People will create their own. They will A&R Chris Brown's project and create
Make
a playlist
whole album
out of the 10 out of 30 songs they like, and then enough people do that, certain things will pick up in the algorithm, and then be 2 years later, and then be like, oh yeah, this song is something I can perform on stage, and then all of a sudden, a song from 2 albums ago is something that's on everybody's playlist. Like, it's something that he can do.
That's the crazy thing, man, about when he was putting out them 30 album projects, man. I remember listening to him, and I'm like, man, there's probably only like 5 of these that I don't like, man. Like, Chris is a bad boy, man.
I mean, now Jagged Edge tried to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it didn't work for them because the people who like Jagged Edge were probably into it, but it didn't have that same thing where people were catching on to the songs a year and a half, 2 years later. And, you know, I guarantee you when they that too, but, you know, I guarantee you when Jagged Edge, like I said, I had no idea they were here this weekend. Apparently, you know, it was
a good show.
But they performed the songs that we remember them from, you know, when they initially came out and when they were in that major label system.
All right, so the moral of the story is we still care about albums, but if you got a collection of dope songs, put those out.
I'm gonna rock with that too.
We ain't mad at you if you put it either way. If it worked for you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. NewOldEdge.com for all the education you need this year. If you see it, like it, subscribe, and since you've been with us this long, like and subscribe the page for our YouTube channel. Also, remember to give us a 5-star rating on any platform that you see. 5 of them things. Thank you. We need that at all times. And also remember to sign up for our Patreon, where you get access to our full uncut episodes. A lot of the foolishness that y'all don't see, you'll get a chance to see. We appreciate the support. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Yes, sir.
In a minute.
Bye.